So HeadStart is India's one of the most largest and oldest organizations for development of startup ecosystem and entrepreneurship. So we have been doing this for past 13 years, present across 30 cities, and now expanding globally. So this is a complete non-profit organization, completely volunteer-driven, and we have had a pleasure to have more than 500 volunteers who are professional with us. And fortunately, we have impacted more than 15,000 ventures till date. So till the time Harish joins, if if any one of you would like to share your experience with Head Start with us, kindly unmute and just share your experience with us. Whosoever have attended Head Start events before and your experience with Head Start.
Hi. I attended one of the event that Head Start conducted at IIM Ahmedabad, and uh, that was also on a marketing strategy for early stage startups. So the uh, ideas, or I would say the discussion that happened, was uh, very practical, and that's the thing that I liked about the seminar, that it was very practical oriented.
Awesome, awesome,
Yeah.
awesome. Thanks, Ayush. Thank you, Ayush. Anyone else who would like to share?
Hi, Harish here. So I attended Head Start, one of the Head Start programs, which was conducted offline in Bangalore. So long
Okay.
back, we had also presented our startup. We got some good responses from different people and the startup ecosystem, and we were able to meet people from of different levels in startups. So I think on that day we were able to meet a person from Chumbak co-founder, and it really went well for us. And yeah, definitely everyone should have that experience of trying to meet people firsthand and get their opinions. And honestly, to say, I didn't know he was a founder until he started speaking there. So
Okay.
it was really, he came in softly and he just discussed with us, and it was really fantastic. So yeah, everyone should have that experience as a person being in the startup ecosystem. And thank you, Head
Awesome.
Start, for providing that experience.
Awesome, awesome, Harish. I think that's the best thing, where you get to meet people firsthand, and that for some of you are fortunate enough to find their co-founders at such events. Yes, Kanchan, you were about to say
Hi,
something.
Harshri. Thanks for organizing this. Happens to be this topic very close to my heart of go-to-market strategy, especially in these COVID times. And with regard to the Head Start network, I just would like to mention, one of the events that I attended in Bangalore in the, I think, SAP precincts, and this had Mr. Ashok Suta speaking, and also Sanjay Swami coming in, and it was an amazing insight into how do successful entrepreneurs and as well as investors think. So I still remember that particular session by Head Start, and I am very appreciative of all the work Head Start volunteers as well as all the people associated with it are doing. And very happy to be here today. I'm the founder of Loan Genie, which is into giving small personal unsecured loans to salaried millennials in Bangalore. And from my point of view, one of the things which I wanted to know from this particular session was that how do you even reach across to, let's say, a millennial segment in this COVID kind of a time digitally. So those would be one of the things that I would be really interested in.
Definitely, definitely, Kanchan. That's amazing. And we appreciate that you have such such experience with us, and we definitely look forward to you, and put in your questions in the chat box so that we can take it in the Q&A round. So I'll give you a just quick intro about what Harish obviously most of us every one of us would know Harish as a person that what he does. So all the really beautiful and this crazy campaign that Mintra does, Harish is the person behind it. So Harish heads the marketing at Mintra as their chief marketing officer, and Harish has also been associated with Google with the YouTube subscription and ads in their Singapore office. So Harish, thank you for joining us here, and we would love to hear your experiences, and we would love to hear what are the challenges and people that the startup face, and how can they overcome it. So all the strategies and all the tips and tricks that you would share with us. So over to you, Harish.
Sure. So thanks for having me, guys. I always love to talk to both students and entrepreneurs. And this is my way of giving back or sharing my knowledge, and I'm very happy to be here. Happy to spend more time with you guys. And what I'll do today is do a very short, I have only 6 slides. I'll do a very short but hopefully useful presentation. And then I'll take questions towards the end, if that's okay. Okay, so to start off, like I said, like Hardeep mentioned, I've spent all my career in marketing. So go-to-market is something that I'm very closely associated with through my career. I've had the fortune of working in companies who took coaching very seriously, which meant that they would teach marketing in a very first principle and fundamental oriented way. And that put me in a very good place. So that was in P&G. And then after 6 years in P&G, I had the fortune of working in Google for 6 years in the YouTube team. That was another fantastic learning and wonderful experience. And after that, I moved on to, sorry for the noise, there's some construction happening in the building next door. And after that is when I moved to Myntra. It's been a year and a half, and it's been a wonderful journey here as well. And the teams that work for me, brand marketing, performance marketing, digital, social content, B2B marketing, brand partnerships, and the in-house creative teams, design teams. These are the teams that work with me, right? So I've been fortunate again in my career to have had this kind of variety of experiences, and that gives me a kind of a very helicopter view of the marketing world in general and go-to-market in general. And that's what I want to distill it down to very, very simple first principle led approach, and hope that, we can simplify the go-to-market problem or the marketing problem in a very easy way to understand. So that's the objective. I thought I'll start off with a bit of interaction. I'm going to start off with a quiz. Can you recognize these brands very quickly? You can answer in the chat box. What are these brands? And I just want to check if you know them. Yeah, I think everybody got it. So very well-known brands, right? Maggi, SBI, HP, Amul, Dabur, Fevicol, YouTube, and McDonald's. So it's not surprising that you know this. The reason why I started with this and not other slides right up front is to show you the power of brands. Now, what has happened with these brands is that they have occupied a certain part of your mind, right? They have occupied a certain part of your brain that when you think of noodles, your brain space for noodles is occupied by Maggi. When you think of bank, one of the banks that your brain space is occupied by is SBI. Similarly, for adhesives, if you think of anything that you want to stick, a part of your brain has been occupied by Fevicol, right? If you want to watch videos, YouTube, and so on and so forth. The reason I'm sharing this is for startups especially, you don't have this exposure to what is brand building. And that's what I want to give you guys, is this understanding of brands being very important. And at the end of the day, we are all brands. And to drive that point home further, your startup is a new brand, right? If you think of Myntra when it started, nobody knew, 11 years ago. And then slowly it started building, and now people know what Myntra is. Same with YouTube, same with Procter & Gamble brand, same with what you guys are building. So imagine a world where there were no brands, right? It would mean that there was no way of distinguishing one packet of chips from the other, or one pack of cornflakes from the other, or our billboards would look empty, and so on. And there's a nice story from P&G that I want to share with you. Ivory soaps. This is one of the first branded soaps in the entire world. And this is what was the first branded product from Procter & Gamble. And this was more than 100 years ago. And the reason why this stood out in the market was this brand, literally, right? They used to chop the soap with a particular design. And that was the brand of the soap. And many of you may not know that the word soap opera comes from the fact that Ivory Soaps used to sponsor the first radio program. They sponsored the first TV shows. They were the first sponsors of radio and TV. And that's where the word soap opera comes from, because it was sponsored by soaps. Right. So the reason I'm sharing this is I want you to expand your horizons a bit and think about how to build a long lasting brand that will stand out and stick in the minds of the customer. And the job of marketing, or the role of marketing, is to tell the stories of these brands, to connect to the customer at a very deep level, and obviously, and most importantly, to grow your business. Right. So I hope I have made the point on, go to market is not just about choosing whether I should do Facebook ad or a TV ad or a referral program. Expand your horizons, expand your mind a bit, and think about how you want to create a brand for your startup eventually. And that is one of the most important parts of growing your business. Right. So that's the starting point. The next thing I will talk about is marketing in one slide. So this is slide 4 already. So you can imagine this slide is going to be heavy, but bear with me. I'll try to simplify. Marketing is codified common sense. That is my firm belief. Every jargon, every complex tool, all of that can be simplified into something very, very straightforward, because at the end of the day, it is about only a few things. So let me talk about what those few things are. If you want growth for your startup, it will come from two things, right? It will come from more users, and it will come from more revenue per user. There is no other third way of getting growth for your company, right? It's that simple. You have to get a lot of users, and you have to increase the revenue you make per user. To get more users, you can do a few things, right? You can add users to the top of the marketing funnel or the user funnel, which is, you would have heard about the usual marketing funnel, right? Awareness, consideration, trial, repeat, loyalty. So you can add more and more users to the top of the funnel. How is that done? That is done by a lot of things. You can do TV ad, digital ads, social content, word of mouth, growth hacking, so on and so forth. If you want examples on all of these things, I can talk about it later when we get into Q&A. The other thing you can do is you can reduce churn. So people who come into your experience or your platform, your app, your product, your business, a lot of them will go away, right? They will either go away to somebody else, or they stop using your product, or they stop using the category. It may be any case. Reducing that churn and increasing conversion is the second way of keeping more users. The third one is to reactivate dormant users. This and the second point are closely related. People who have left you, how to bring them back to the platform. These are the ways to get more users. The second part of the story is getting more revenue per user. This is where you talk about optimizing a pricing, premiumizing your product, increasing cross sell. So if a person is buying one category, you sell them another category, and you increasing upsell. So if they are buying a certain base product, and then you upsell them to the more premium product, or you can increase frequency, which is they are buying your product once in a month, you make them buy 4 times a month. This is the simplest way of thinking about growth in a business, right? And go to market should solve for this. Now, let me take examples for each of these things, just to make these points very clear. Adding users to top of the funnel, say, a company like Byju's advertising during IPL, or Cred advertising during IPL, is doing exactly this. They want to increase users at such a scale in millions that they go and advertise to a mass, and all of those users come onto the platform. And this can be done through TV, or you can put an ad on YouTube, or you can put an ad on Facebook, or what you can do is you can do growth hacking. So this growth hacking is a very vague term nowadays, but the way I think about growth hacking is how to add users without spending too much money. Right. And the way that happens is when you are able to use your product and your close relationship with the technology team or the engineering team or the design team to do things which will scale without spending too much. So for example, the first time when Hotmail launched, this is a very famous case study. They put a line under each email that went out that said, get your email for free. The same thing Gmail did, where they made it an invite-only process. People who are old enough to remember how Gmail started, it was the first email to give away 2 GB of storage, and they said invite your friends, and it had to be an invite only thing. Or you can think about in recent times Dropbox, right? You could refer your friend and earn 1 GB more. So these are all growth hacks. They are not marketing in the traditional sense of the word, but they are in a field called growth marketing, and this is very popular nowadays. Even if you remember the first time you started using Ola or Uber, you would have had a referral code, right? Or coupons. So all of these things fall under this part. Reducing churn, increasing loyalty. Amazon Prime, right? A good example. You pay X rupees every month, and because you pay, you continue to shop with them, and they offer you more and more benefits for that. From our own company, Myntra, we have this program called Myntra Insider, which is a very strong loyalty program. If you buy more and more with Myntra, very special things unlock for you. Like our premium most customers will have money can't buy experiences. We'll have faster response times. We'll treat them in a very different way and in a special way. We would offer them early access to our sale events and so on. So that is all loyalty, right? The other things you can do is within newsletters, for example. Whenever you go to a website and the moment you put your mouse outside of the website, it will immediately say, hey, where are you going? Come back and I'll offer you 10% discount and so on. So that is all in the reducing churn, increasing conversion bucket. Reactivating dormant is if you have not shopped in a place for a long time or you uninstall the app, you get ads on social media saying, come back and install this app again. So this is all in the more users bucket. More revenue per user, a lot of examples I can share here. The airline industry is famous for having pricing that is very dynamic. So depending on how close you are to the flight, how many seats are left, how many times you have searched for this particular seat, and what is your ticket purchase behavior in the past, all of these will be adjusted to give you a real-time pricing, which will be very different from what the other person is getting. Right, so this is very common in many industries. The value you can extract out of a customer depends on how much they are willing to pay. Right, so that is pricing is a huge piece on revenue per customer. Cross sell is when you let's say you buy a shirt on Myntra, we will tell you this jeans or this trouser or this shoe goes well with this shirt. That's cross sell, and it's actually good for the customer because they don't have to go and hunt the other thing. Which we are making it very easily available. You would see this across categories, right? Even when you order a Domino's pizza, it will say, do you want a Pepsi, right? Or you order a dosa from Adidas, it will ask you if you want to add a gulab jamun along with it. So that is cross-sell. Upsell is when Gillette wanted to upsell you from buying 2 blades to 3 blades, 3 blades to 5 blades. It's a better experience for the customer. Anybody who can afford it should be able to buy it, right? And upselling means that we are this works across loyalty programs in airlines as well, where you can go from Singapore Airlines KrisFlyer to silver to gold to elite and whatnot, right? And to platinum. And the more you step up, the services keep getting better and the value you can unlock from your customers keeps getting better. Increasing frequency, this is about making the user try your product more often. You would see this happening in toothpaste companies where they'll say, brush twice in a day. It's good. I mean, it's actually good for your teeth, but the education from a marketing and go-to-market point of view happens to increase the sale of toothpaste, right? Or diapers company will tell you should use diapers for your baby every night so that the baby can sleep well. Again, it's a increasing frequency piece. So net growth for an organization happens in these broad areas, right? I might have missed a few, but if you take care of these things as a young startup, you have more than enough to take care of your growth until you hit massive scale. Now, how to think about this from a marketing point of view is what I'll cover in the next picture. So the why is very important. Why is your company doing what it's doing? What is the purpose of your company? Right? It's very, very important. So for example, for Myntra, we believe that fashion can be democratized. Everybody should have access to fantastic brands and fantastic fashion. Fashion is a way for people to feel good and look good. and it is our job to make all of India more fashionable and more colorful, more happy, right? So it's a very strong purpose for a company. Different companies will have different purposes. The mission of the company is aligned to the why, and you have to understand the why first before you get into anything else. Go to market will come later, right? Because everything is connected, and you'll see how it is all connected. Let's say, and I'm going to take a fictional example here. Let's pick an edtech company, a company XYZ, and the edtech company is all about training people in vocational skills, right? I'm just making it up, so bear with me. It's a company that trains electricians and plumbers and mobile phone repairs technicians and so on. So let's say it's a company that trains people to do these kind of repairs, and the purpose, the why, can be closely aligned to the mission, which might be making more vocational training the way of self-sustenance and self-dependence for a lot of folks who have not had the luxury of going to top colleges and studying engineering and whatnot. So unlocking a very good quality of life using vocational training will be the purpose of the company. Now, the next most important question is the who. Who is your target audience? This is very, very important to define, because it is very easy, especially at the very early stages of your company, to get lost in multiple target segments. I want to cater to this segment and that segment and this segment. But if you have a very clear definition of the who, especially at your early stage, it will make the experience of building a company much sharper. The teams will understand why we are doing this, and you will see that the go-to-market strategy will also adapt accordingly. So in this case, again, going back to the fictional example, XYZ company, the target audience is, for example, a metro and tier 1 non-college goer, male and female, who's looking for good revenue or salary from his work, but currently is not able to command that because he's in a commoditized job. Let's say he's a driver right now, right? And he wants to upskill himself and become more valuable so that he can bring a better livelihood to his family. So this is the who. The what is basically the promise that you want to make, or the messaging, the proposition, positioning, whatever you want to call it. That is the what. What do we want to stand for? The same company can stand for the best vocational training skills in the world. That's a good position. The same company can also stand for enabling the tier 2 India to shine and rise to their full potential. The same company can stand for the best salary increase you will get after a 6-month course. It can be a lot of these things, and you will see this in the competing industries, right? Let's take shampoos, for example. It might be 90% the same formula, but you'll realize that a Pantene will stand for healthy hair, Head and Shoulders will stand for no dandruff scalp, herbal essences will stand for wonderful smell while you shower with that shampoo. Even soaps. Hammam will stand for something else. Lux will stand for something else. I don't know. Santoor will stand for something else. So this is the what. It can be the same soap, but depending on the why and the who, your what will change. And to define this promise is very, very important. Whether you want to be known as the soap that makes your skin looks younger, right? Which is Santoor, which means that the story will be about, you have a daughter. She's you're a mom. I'm so surprised, right? That story has consistently lasted them more than 2 decades. So that is one example of the what. Whereas if you take Lux, it will be Sitaro Ka Sabun, right? If you take Hammam, it will all be about traditional values, home care, taking care of yourself. If it is Lifebuoy, it will be Tandurusti Ki Raksha. If it is Dettol, it will be about germ protection. So the same category can have multiple whats, and you have to decide where your company sits. And that becomes the heart of the how. Now, once you understand the why, the who, and the what, we come to the how, which is how do you go to market. Now, you'll see a lot of acronyms at the bottom. These stands for moment of truth. MOT means moment of truth, and zero moment of ZMOT is zero moment of truth. The zero moment of truth is when somebody first hears about your product, right? It can be the first time they came across an ad, or they saw your search campaign for the first time. FMOT is first moment of truth, is when they see your product for the first time physically, or they land on your website if it's an app or a website. Second moment of truth is when they experience. So when you bring the soap home and when you first shower with that soap is the second moment of truth. In an app experience, it'll be the first time after I download, I experience your product. In e-commerce, it can be first time I use your product and then first return experience that I have, for example. Then the third moment of truth is when I believe you so much that I want to talk about you to someone else, which is the sharing, social advocacy, or I will say that I will never use a product again. All these moments of truth are areas where you have to talk to your customer. And that is where go-to-market comes. Now, all the elements on the right that I've listed, right? TV, digital, social, content, word of mouth, referral, CRM, etc. These are all channels. It will all depend on who, what, and which moment of truth is the biggest barrier. If your biggest barrier is people don't know about you, then you have to do go-to-market in the zero moment of truth. If people know about you, but they are still considering between multiple options, then first moment of truth is most important. If they have already tried you, but you are not keeping the users back, if they are churning a lot, then second moment of truth is most important. Your marketing or go-to-market will completely change. If they are doing all that, but you are not getting network effects, if your other people are not coming to the platform organically, then third moment of truth is very important. So again, going back to the fictional example, if I'm a very, very new company, nobody knows about me, then I need to first get my word out, right? And that's where zero moment of truth is very important. If I'm already out there, but there are competitors, and there are 5 companies who are doing the same, vocational training online kind of a thing, then the customer is considering between you and somebody else. How do I tackle that first moment of truth when they land on the site or when they are talking to their friends is the most important part. If they have come to the platform and signed up, how do I go to market in such a way that they love the product, they love the experience, and they are ready to go to the third moment of truth? That is the most important part. If all of that is happening, everybody loves the product and they are not talking about it enough, then my go-to-market will be all about referral programs, advocacy, testimonial campaigns, and so on. So this is how the how links to the objective on the right-hand side. So I hope this makes sense. The last slide I'll talk about is a bit of the tactical framework to make these go-to-market choices. See, there is a spectrum. On one end, which is the right-hand side, you have your friend, right? Your friend is the go-to-market, where it is very high on trust. If your friend says, hey, I tried this new app and you should try it, you'll definitely, or this book is great, you should go and buy this book, you'll definitely go and buy it. But it is very low on reach, which means your friend will talk to you one-on-one. On the other hand, on the other extreme is a celebrity, right? Who's very high on reach, but low on trust. So the labeling is flipped. Apologies for that. But a friend is high on trust, low on reach, and the celebrity is high on reach and low on trust. What this means is a celebrity will be able to reach millions and millions of people. One tweet from Priyanka Chopra will make your brand reach so many people. But at a trust level, it is very low, which means that celebs will support whatever brands pay them money. So it is not because they have tried it themselves. Influencers are somewhere in between, right? Which means that an influencer is mid-level on trust and mid on reach. They might reach 10,000, 1 lakh people. They are more trustworthy than a celebrity because they usually tend to use and recommend products that they have found to be useful. So this is a spectrum, and the way to think about this, which is the next level of stage of company. If you're a small scale, early stage company, still finding product market fit, or you're a B2B company, or you're bootstrapped right now, you're still small, less than 1,000 users, you should completely be focusing on the right hand side part and growing slowly. If you are, on the other hand, are a large scale and your complete model is on number of users, B2C, you have a lot of money to spend, you're blitz scaling, you have hit product market fit and you want to get from 1,000 users to 10 million users, that is when you have to think about the left hand part. And the way to look at differences in channels, the right hand side will be about word of mouth, referrals, one-on-one selling. B2B is usually I go and talk to a person and convince that person to make a decision. And mostly start with $0 marketing. Try to find ways of unlocking a lot of goodness without spending too much money. That is the starting point. On the left extreme will be TV, mass, digital, national, print, heavy paid marketing. Influencer marketing will be somewhere in between, which is the content led piece, which will be in somewhere in between depending on the stage of evolution. And like I promised, that was it. I will stop sharing now and we'll take questions.
Thank you, Harish. That was wonderful. I hope, these are some of the really serious challenges, in terms of marketing, what startups and as an entrepreneur people face, when they're starting up either B2B or B2C. I think that was very insightful. So we have a couple of questions here. So people, you can just drop in your questions in the, you are directly directing it to the host account. You can drop in directly to the chat account. So I have a couple of questions, Harish. So
before that, Hardeep, can I just take a quick poll from the audience? Did it make sense? Do you want to clarify anything that I presented? Is anything not making sense? It's more than a decade of marketing learning compressed into 3 or 4 slides. If you want to know more on what I presented, that right now would be the time.
So guys, you can just give it a thumbs up or yes or a no.
Yeah.
So Deepak says someone is into right space and someone the prospective client sometimes they say a prospective client gets a lot of messages, lot of ads, they get spammed with a lot of their competitors. Then is there a strategy or is there a tip or trick how their brand or their strategy can be reached out to these particular prospective clients and these emails should be read first? Or is there in a sense most of the startup feels there are a lot of competitors, so how can they reach to their target audience or customer first, or how can they be different, stand out?
See, you all went to good schools, you all applied to good companies, you all made your CVs. Think about it this way, right? How did you make your CV stand out? There was a class of 100 people and you made your CV stand out in some way. How did that happen? So it all comes down to, again, understanding how you are different from everything else. If your product is the same as everyone else, then marketing or go to market is not the problem. Go figure out your product first, right? That should be a very, very clear reason why your product is better than anyone else and why the customer should use your product better than anyone else. If that doesn't exist, if that is not true, please go and work on your product. Marketing is step 2. If you believe that you have a differentiated product and it is going to deliver better value for the customer than everything else around there, then you think about your positioning. Why is, if my phone is actually better, right? Why is my user going and buying somebody else's phone? It will be one of those 4 things that I mentioned in that slide, right? It will be either the 0 moment of truth is broken, they don't know about you, or first moment of truth where they came and looked at your packaging or they saw the Amazon page and they didn't like it, or second moment they tried it and they didn't like it, or they heard from somebody, hey, wo mat khareedna, or they tried it and they never want to come back for the next version of your phone. It will be one of those 4 things. So think about where it is broken. If you are worried that they will get a lot of emails, if you say the thing that matters to them the most. So again, going back to this example, right? The fictional example. Let's say there are 5 companies which offer vocational training. but your product is significantly better because you can guarantee that they will get a job offer which is 50% more salary in 6 months. I would lead with that claim. My email will say, do you want to earn more, say 50% more in 6 months? Click here. Or the other idea I can have for you is a testimonial campaign where I will get people who have passed out of this the company and have them recruit 10 more people, and I will offer them a referral bonus. I'll tell them your fees is free if you can get me 10 more users. That is a referral idea. Or I'll start a YouTube channel on teaching free coaching, right? This is called trial marketing. So I'll give you 2 episodes or 2 videos for free, and then have them pay for the rest of the content. If the 2 episodes are, so fantastic that the quality is so much better. So there are ways to come to, there are ways to stand out if your product is great. And once your product is great, you can look at which moment of truth is broken. And based on that moment of truth, you can brainstorm ideas with your team. And I'm sure every young person will have like hundreds of ideas which you can do within your company.
Perfect. I think that's the biggest challenge that every entrepreneur or startup would face, like, just to stand out, like, to work on their product and their marketing strategy post developing their product up to the right market fit. I think another question we have from Roshan is like, when someone or any company into technology, AR, VR, or EdTech, they're into B2B space, and when they're targeting their customers and audience, but the audience specifically is not on active social media platforms, then what can be their mindset, or what can be their approach towards the marketing strategies or towards directing these?
Sure. See, B2B is very different. So for all the B2B audiences and the people in the audience, for B2B, see, the thing is, each decision is a lot riskier. The decision amounts are much higher. So when you buy a toothpaste, it's 20 rupees, 30 rupees, and you can change it if you don't like it. But if you choose a wrong vendor, supplier, or HR product, it will be, you're married to it for 2 years, and then you need to do a RFP again, and it's a whole process, right? So B2B decisions are much more complicated, which means that the number of stakeholders are different. In B2C decision making, it's usually only the customer or the user. In B2B, you will have influencers, you'll have stakeholders, you will have the boss, you'll have the industry expert, you'll have consultants and whatnot. So the way to think about B2B, and this is the trick that has worked for me the best, is to be useful to the client for free. Go and offer them best practices, case studies, run events for them, see what is their biggest pain point. So let's say you are a AR/VR company, right? And you want you are talking to a certain client, and it's very difficult to get through to them. What is their biggest pain point in AR/VR? And go do something for them for free. Just say, hey, I don't want any, I'm not looking for business, I'm trying to be helpful. That will change the attitude and their openness to you tremendously, right? And it's not just building a product, but it's also, you can give them case studies, you can give them industry information, you can call them to a event of their peers, you can put together a brain trust, sort of like a expert panel for them, which they can come and talk to. You can have so many ideas where you can be helpful to these companies without spending too much, or without it being a big draw on your resources. And that will open up doors for you like nothing else.
Got it. I think, so ultimately it's the base thing that, like, everyone says, solve the customer problem and they will automatically be pulled towards you.
Yeah, see, I'm going to sound like a broken record saying this again and again. People get lost in the channels, and they don't spend enough time on the why, the who, and the what, right? They focus only on the how, and that too, not even on the moments of truth. They go directly to, Acha, should I do LinkedIn or Facebook, or should I spend on Instagram? These are the kind of questions I get. And my point is, guys, that is 20-30% of my job. The 70% of my job happens before I get to the channel choices, right? Understanding my users so deeply that I know I'm solving a problem for them. Connecting to the product so much that I'm able to talk about the product deeply. Understanding the positioning that I want to take, the positioning that competition is taking. These things should take up more than 50% of your job. The channel choices an intern can do. An MBA intern who understands how to buy a media on Facebook or TV can do channel choices. They don't need a startup founder or a senior marketing person to do that, right? So I would again and again, broken record, the part before you make the channel choices matters 3x more than the channel choices itself.
Got it. So, Harish, we get a lot of questions in and around. That's completely true. Like, they should focus on why, and then they should focus on how. So, if you can just share, few of the your experience, according to your experience, few of the tips, while segmenting their customer profile, and while answering to their question of why, if they could just think of 2-3 points in their mind while thinking of their product or how they can profile it, so that would be wonderful for the audience, because I have a lot of questions asking that.
See, again, the order is flipped. We don't start customer segmentation before we know the why. The why is almost a company formation question. It's not a marketing or a go-to-market question. When you started the company, you would have had a why in your mind. That has to come before marketing choices, right? Marketing is telling your story, getting customers, growing your business. Whereas the why question is, why do I exist? Why does this company exist? What dent do I want to make in this world? That is the starting point. And depending on that, and that is closely connected to the who, right? You will solve somebody's problem. So you will not be solving a problem in vacuum. You'll be solving somebody's problem. That somebody becomes your core target audience. And these two things will naturally come. So if I ask any person on this call, right, if they are a startup founder who is seeing any traction, they will have these two things very clear. Why am I doing this, and whose problem, what problem am I solving? ये दो चीजें बहुत clear होंगी, right? That is the base expectation. After you do that is when you can segment. Segmentation is, oh, there are so many customers and I can't go after all of them, right? Let's say this, again, going back to that vocational online edtech company. I can solve the issues of plumbing or electricians or mobile technicians or, anything, right? Which one should I pick first? Then the segmentation happens, right? You go and look at what is the demand for a electrician versus a plumber versus a mobile technician. Which one is making the most money per use case, and which one has the most competition? Today, how many electricians are there in a city? How many plumbers are there? How many mobile technicians are there? Which one has the biggest potential to grow in the next 6 months? That is the segmentation that I'll do. And I'll also look at competition. How many people are already servicing the electrician vocational training space or the mobile technician space? And then accordingly take a call and then go market to that segment very heavily.
Correct. So I think that's the most important part, after why, and then you should figure it out how, for in terms of how, in customer profiling, they should know that which is the most which we call a low hanging fruit. You should go for that first, and then you should approach it further. And another question, Harish, that we get a lot of times is people don't tend to relate with customer acquisition cost and their lifetime value. So when you spoke about growth and into upselling and into getting them frequently back and forth. So how can new entrepreneurs and startups should deal with these kind of acquisition cost and lifetime value, and where it is important for them to look at it while drafting a marketing strategy?
Yeah, there's a reason why I didn't get into that in this presentation, is because people tend to start from there. And for your first 1,000 customers, you should not be paying any money, right? People should come because of your organic growth, which will come from word of mouth, referral, your current customers going and telling somebody that this product is amazing, please go and try it. Or you can incentivize them to say, I'll give you a certain discount if you go and recommend somebody. you should not be thinking about CAC in paid media terms until you hit your first 1,000, 10,000 users. Maybe in B2B, it will be first 10, 20 customers. In B2C, it will be 10,000 to, I don't know, 20,000 users. You should not be talking about CAC in paid media terms. Your CAC should be the cost of referral. It should be the cost of incentivizing somebody to give word of mouth for you, right? It should be the cost of creating content that leads people to you organically. It should be the cost of creating your social media page and maintaining that, or Instagram page, etc. Right? So that is the starting point. If you don't have the discipline, you'll end up giving most of your money to Facebook and Google, whatever you raise. Whereas if you have the discipline, what that will do is, once you have money, you'll amplify it tremendously, right? So that is why I don't talk about CAC and LTV for early stage startups. For you guys, your CAC should be less than your customers' 2-month or 3-month purchase, if it's a repeat purchase. It's a very simple math. If your value that your customer gives you in 3 months is 300 rupees, please spend less than that to acquire your customer. I would even say the best way to do it is your first month itself. But maximum you should stretch is 3 months. It's a very simple math, right? And you should not spend time overthinking Facebook versus Google versus Instagram versus TikTok, Hotstar. Don't forget all that for the first 10,000 users. Have the discipline of getting them by organic growth, because people are talking about you and it is so fantastic. And referrals, right? People don't use referrals enough, I feel. If your product is good and the user is very happy with you, he or she will be ready to go and talk about it to someone else, right? Think about the first time you talked about your favorite app. Take any app, for example, right? The first time I used Uber and I got a car in 5 minutes and it was cheaper than the taxi. I went and told my parents, I told my friends, I told everybody, hey, you should definitely use this. Stop, you don't have to haggle with the rickshawala, just open this app and just get to wherever you want to get to. You did it because it was so good. And that should be the discipline of go-to-market first, right? Within the app, you should have these hacks, you should have these inbuilt ways of referring. Every early stage app, Cred, for example, for first 2 years, no advertising, right? They advertise first time in a big way now because they raised a lot of money and the product is at a time where it can scale. First 2 years, for a guy like Kunal Shah, who has lots of money to spend, right? And he can raise money anytime. Even he didn't spend for the first 2 years. It was just purely based on, hey, you like the experience, you go and refer it to someone else. And that worked. So that should be the discipline. The time when you get to a point where you're scaling and you have money to spend, take CAC to be 3-month goodness that you can extract from a customer. That's the maximum your CAC should be.
Okay. I think that answers most of the questions that people have been asking, and I think this also answers the question wherein people are confused and people are asking what should be their what kind of customer experience one should have in the initial stage of marketing. So I think you have answered it beautifully in terms of the experience that customers should have, and when they refer it to someone else, when they refer it to their colleagues, when they refer it to their friends. I think that's the wonderful. If you want to add something in the customer experience phase in the initial stage of marketing, so what they should look for?
See, I had some, I had some issue with the title of this session itself, because go to market, the moment you say go to market, immediately it is advertising.
Yes.
Right? It is not advertising, guys. Go to market, especially for this group, right? For startups. If I were talking to a group of marketers from, established companies, my presentation will be very different. I will be talking about how to hire the right agency, how to optimize your spends on television, how to do regional targeting. It will be a very different presentation, right? But for this group, especially for startups, especially in the first year or 2 years of your existence, marketing equals everything. Marketing is growth, right? Simply put. And growth equals everything. So whether you go and talk to somebody one-on-one, even your chat with investors, when you talk to your neighbor about what you're building, when you're sitting in a pub next to your friends and they are asking you what you're doing, to every feature that you put in the product, every good experience, every review that you get on Facebook, every product review that you score on Flipkart, all of this is marketing. So the way to think about, that's why I started with moments of truth, right? These are not advertising moments of truth. These are moments of truth.
Correct.
So you have to win in these moments of truth. It doesn't matter if it is paid advertising, not paid advertising, social media, performance media. Yeah, these are all, again, going back to the earlier point, these are channels. If you need help in channels, ping me separately. It's an easy way to solve for that. You can go and even get help from some performance agency or, marketing consultancy, whatever. Like, there are so many people who will tell you how to optimize the channels. But nobody will tell you how to fix the core of the essence of your company and product and the initial self-propelling organic growth. This has to come from the founders. This has to come from the core team. So I would again say, spend a lot of time doing that.
Correct.
Should I take questions from the chat? I see a...
Yes, you can definitely.
Okay, so
there are a lot of questions in the chat.
Yeah, I'll go to the top. Let me see. I'm going to pick a few of these. So Sailesh has been asking me for Myntra, the who, what, and the how. I don't want to get into all of it because I will be giving away some secrets. But let's very top level. The why is obviously to democratize fashion for India. We want everybody to look and feel good and feel fantastic. And we want to be the people who can bring the best fashion brands, best beauty brands, best lifestyle brands to our customers at fantastic prices across the country, right? Availability, access. And we also want to enable them because we compete in a space where everybody can offer brands and prices, but we also offer expertise. We are your best friend, influencer, teacher, whatever you want to call it, when it comes to fashion, right? If you want to know anything about fashion, whether this thing will look good on me, will it fit better, you should think of Myntra first. So that is the Uber why. The who is, anybody who cares about fashion is our target audience in this. And we are at a scale where we are tens of millions of monthly users. So we can't be a small segment anymore, right? We are at a very different stage. If you asked me about Myntra 10 years ago, it would be a very different answer. It would be something very specific, this city, this target audience, we want to do this for that customer. Now we are already tens of millions in monthly users. So we have to talk to a much larger audience. The what I will not talk much about because it's a piece of work that has taken a lot of time to get to where we are. But essentially, it's also again about fashion expertise and fashion sense, right? And making the best of fashion available to everybody. The how, we do everything. We do TV. I mean, you would have seen the advertising, right? So we do everything from TV to buying, partnering with IPL teams, to partnering with our brands, to social media. We launched a reality show. We have a very big channel on YouTube and Insta. We even have a in-app content destination called Myntra Studio. So we are at a much larger scale. So the might of marketing and the amount of budget I control every year is much larger. So we are able to scale the impact that we can have at a much larger scale. Cool. So let's go to the next one. How do you identify your industry influencers? Deepak is asking. I mean, who do people in your industry listen to? I mean, I don't know how else to answer that. It's a the folks who are able to gather the most audience and who are respected in their field are influencers for me. And that's how, and it doesn't matter if they are officially influencers, right? If they have an Instagram page or not, it doesn't matter. If they are good, they will be known, they will have an audience, and that's how you identify them. How do you use social media like Facebook and Instagram for acquiring customers? We do it, Myntra will do it very differently, because again, at the scale, we have 2 million followers on our Instagram page. So we are at a different stage. For a young startup, I would say start with good content first. People use social media because you learn something, right? Or you are entertained. It's one of these two things. In YouTube, we used to call it nutritious and delicious content, right? Put one of these two out. Maybe the best would be a good mix of both. Put nutritious and delicious content out regularly. Have people visit your platform because they want to, not because you put an ad every time. And then as it grows further, you can make it more referrals, you can run contests, you can do, you can put ads, all of that comes later. So that's the progression of how to build an audience on social media. Do we restrict to the same brand promise or keep on changing? It's a tricky one. I would say it's not a marketing question, it's a company question. It's a pivot question. There's this, many companies are famously pivoted to something very different. Slack started off as a gaming company and then became a messaging company. The same guy's previous company was Flickr, which again was a gaming company, which became a photo hosting company. Google started off as a search engine, became so many other things. So the core essence of, and I answered this in a very different context in front of media officials last year. I would say you can change as long as it is within your core expertise area. And what I mean by that is, you cannot keep changing your brand promise from something to something all the time, because then the customer doesn't know what you stand for, and then they are confused. If the vocational training school one day says, I'm training electricians and plumbers, and the other day it says, I'm all about self-defense or karate, and some other day it talks about IIT JEE, they will not know what you stand for. You have to know what you stand for, and it's a company question, right? If you know you stand for certain thing, your brand should be aligned to that. Otherwise, if for any other reason, it should not change. And I'll give you some examples of the most successful companies that have ever existed. Apple, it stands for just one thing, right? It stands for quality, technology, and things that are so easy to use that they get out of the way and let you do magic, right? It is for enabling the artists and the creative people across the world. That's it. And they can do whatever they want with it, right? Pampers, it has had one ad running for 5 years now. It is about baby sleep. If you put Pampers, your baby will sleep well, it will grow well, period. One brand promise, good for baby sleep. And then people remember it. I have even, my favorite examples come from old time Indian brands, right? Nirma detergent Tikia. Right? It's just, it will talk about just that one thing, right? Tide Safari. You will remember that bar, and you won't even be wearing white clothes, but you'll remember it's that brand promise. So all great brands have stuck to a brand promise for a long time. And it's not just startups, even we, Myntra is a 10-year-old company, even we struggle to find one promise and then stick to it, because it's not easy. But the ones who find it and stick to it will do very well in the long term, right? But at a startup stage, it's okay to pivot, right? You don't even know where you will be 2 years from now, 3 years from now. So it's completely okay to switch and pivot and change. It's okay. But make sure that the pivot happens at a company level, not just at a positioning level. The pivot is happening because you truly found something that is a better fit and a better opportunity, and your core technology or your core team can do that well. And then the pivot will make sense, and then the brand changing to that will also make sense. How to pick right influencers? I think I've answered this. How do you break up your marketing plan for each stage? For a new brand on zero moment of truth, what is a duration they should plan for. This will link to your organization's objective. If your organization's objective is to increase product market fit and find the magic of organic growth and network effects, then you should still focus on zero and first. If your focus, if you realize that you are getting new users in plenty, but they are not staying back, then you should focus on second moment of truth. Right? You can learn from all the social media apps on retention. They are very good when it comes to retention and retention curves and so on. There is a YouTube series by Y Combinator called How to Start a Startup, right? And it's a wonderful series. I've learned a lot from it. There are a couple of videos on growth, and in those sections and retention, and you learn a lot from that on whether as a company you are growing too much on the top funnel, but you are a leaky bucket, it's called, right? Add a lot, but it is leaking out. The moment you realize you're a leaky bucket, the focus moves to second moment of truth. If your retention curve is fine, but you're not organically growing fast enough or your network effects are not kicking in, then you have to focus on third moment of truth. So that's how I would, the organization's objective defines which marketing stage that I should focus on. Charan is asking me to explain content mentioned in the first slide. Content is anything you put out. It's a very simple definition. An advertisement is a content. This, like for Head Start, this is marketing, right? They got a CMO of Myntra to talk about a thing and they'll put it on LinkedIn. It's content. For me, a social campaign is content. If I put out a video thanking my delivery boys, it's content. If I make a reality show, it is content. For a startup, if you start an Instagram page, your voice out there in the world about your company is content. So anything can be content. The difference in marketing terminology is content marketing stands for things that are not ads. Right? It's just not saying, look at this and buy this. It's having a broader conversation. So for example, in Myntra Fashion Superstar, we are not saying buy this product or try this t-shirt. We are saying fashion has a role in society to change the conversation, and fashion influencers are the people who will do that. And we as a company, being at the forefront of fashion technology in this country, will enable that conversation to happen. So that is content. Early stage startups, when you can't spend a lot on making TV advertisements or hiring celebrities and whatnot, content becomes a big area of priority. I'll give an example here. One of my favorite Kickstarter stories is this company called Rebel Girls. I don't know if you've heard of this company. Rebel Girls is started up as two women in the US. They were running a design studio, and they had an idea, right, to create a book. They wanted to start a company that inspires girls to learn more about science and technology and anything, history, literature, art. But they wanted to inspire the girls, saying, you can also do it, and there are enough women in the world who have done amazing things. So their idea was to create a book. It was one of the highest funded Kickstarter books in the history of Kickstarter. And it was a book, every page, there were 2 pages for each person. One page has a story and one page has an illustration. Right? So this was the book, and it sold out, and it's a fantastic book. I have a copy, I love it, and I read it to my daughter, and she loves it, and so on. Now, the content marketing, their marketing story was not based on spending a lot on Facebook or buying a lot of ads or so on. Their story was based on, they made a video, I remember this video, where there was a bookshelf, and they got a small girl to pick books and see if there are any stories which had a female protagonist. And by the end of the video, what they saw was that about 80% of the books had a male protagonist and only 20% had a female protagonist. So this was their content marketing, and this video went viral. Everybody was like, "Wow, this made sense," and we need books with more female heroes and protagonists, and that took off. And the Instagram page is full of stories of girls who read this and did something amazing or felt inspired. So content marketing became the core of their marketing, where instead of putting a random ad on Facebook, they would put this story on Facebook, and they would put money behind it. But it started from content and then became a paid marketing thing. I hope that explains this. How does one kick off word of mouth while bootstrapping? Harshala is asking. Have a product that is worth talking about. If your product has something that is worth talking about, incentivize the users. First few, request them nicely. Hey, can you please tell your friends about it? After you hit a certain number, 100, 500 users, incentivize them, give them, for 5 users you bring, I'll give you a free product, whatever that is. The other one you can do is do something crazy. So there's this concept of a purple cow, right? One of my favorite authors, Seth Godin, talks about it. If a cow is purple, people will talk about it. If a cow is brown or black, nobody's talking about it, right? So have a purple cow. So in the same example, right? Going back to my vocational training institute, the way I would start word of mouth for that would be, I'm just making it up. I would start a 24-hour Guinness Book of World Records attempt to repair the most number of phones in a given 24-hour time period. And I would do it for free. So anybody in Bangalore, if you want to repair your phone, come to this place for free. We want to break the record for most number of phones repaired. It will get talked about. People will write about it. You will show up in TV. Right? It's just an idea. It's free. So I just made that idea up. So you can make up such ideas. You can find your purple cow. You can find something remarkable if you think about it. Ideas are free.
I think as per your time, so you can take 1 or 2 questions, then we can wrap it up so
Sure.
that we can answer most of the queries.
Sure. I'm building a social media platform for fitness trainers. How can I promote my product initially? Go talk to them. Hang out in gyms. Hang out in Facebook groups which already are about bodybuilding and so on. Yeah, people tend to overcomplicate marketing and go to market in such a level, which is why I wanted to keep my presentation extremely simple. This is it. It's very first principle. So how do I promote my product? Okay, question to you. Where will you find bodybuilders coming together, online or offline? It will be in gyms. It will be in social groups. It will be in meetups. Go hang out in these places and ask them to try your product. Be where your customers are. It's that simple. And you have to find where your customers are. If it is about fitness trainers, go and find those fitness trainers. And I'm sure fitness trainers know each other. So once you find your first 10 fitness trainers, have them bring more people. Get into their network and grow from there. So be where your customers are. B2B brand creation. I spoke about this, right? So I can skip this one. Early stage B2B startup. How can I gain trust of another business and get my first customer? I answered this. Be helpful. Consistently be helpful. They will come to you. What kind of customer experiences one should focus in the initial stage of marketing? I will rephrase this question. What kind of customer experiences one should focus in the initial stage of a company? The answer is the customer experiences that removes the biggest pain points of the customer. Right? So your customers will have 10 pain points and your product might be solving 7 of those. There's a hack to this. The question you should ask is, if I go away tomorrow, what will my customers miss about me the most? And that is what you should focus on. So they will absolutely miss that one thing which is the biggest pain point that you solve. Focus on that point as a most important point. Okay, I'll do one last question. When you're at an MVP stage, B2C product is still being formed. How do we find a consumer audience that is willing to experiment with your product? Ask your friends here. I mean, everybody has at least 100 friends on Facebook. Ask your friends. Yeah, the other thing, I've not worked in a startup, so please take my advice with a pinch of salt. I might be saying things which may not be very easy, but still, my advice still will hold. You have to be very shameless if you want to grow a business. You should ask for help as much as you can from as many people as you can, right? The fact that you are part of this call today shows that you are ready to do that. So please go and ask for help. People won't say no. Yeah, I have a few other questions, but I think we are out of time. So thanks for having me, and hope this was useful.
Thanks a lot, Harish. Thanks a lot. This was wonderful, and we had approximately 120 people, and still we have 75 people on call, and we have curated them all. And this is something which we really wanted to do because we get a lot of requests when in terms of how to grow, how to market, and people launch their product, but somewhere they want to experiment with marketing. And trust me, I'm getting a lot of private requests, you look like R. Madhavan, and so
Thanks, I'll
thanks a
take
lot.
it as a compliment.
And people are appreciating you, on chat. So thanks a lot for being here, and it's a pleasure to host you. And we definitely hope that we should keep this long-lasting relationship. And whenever we need you, we definitely approach you for helping these startups and these wonderful entrepreneurs. So everyone whose question hasn't been answered, so you can direct it to Head Start or the chat, or you can email us. We would definitely forward it to Harish, and whenever he is available next, we'll definitely get him and make all of your questions answered. So thank you, all of you, and have a very happy weekend. Enjoy the fullest. Be safe, and thank you, Harish, for joining us. It was wonderful to have you here.
Thanks, guys. All the best, and hope all of your companies are very successful. Yeah, don't overcomplicate marketing is all I'll say.
Yes, there was a lot of insight. We'll share them on social media in bites, that whatever you have said and whatever you have given them in terms of insights.
Sure.
Thank you. Thanks a lot,
Thanks, guys.
everyone. Thank you. Thank you.